Here's some NBA urban legends you probably forgot about. Michael Jordan's treatment of Kwame Brown. So a lot of the times when we talk about the best NBA players ever, it comes down to two guys, Michael Jordan and Kwame Brown. And actually, it just so happens they were teammates at one point in time. On the Washington Wizards, because where else would it be? But not for real. For this one, we gotta go back to 2001. Kwame Brown, the first overall pick out of high school.
The Washington Wizards select Kwame Brown from Wynn Academy, Brunswick, Georgia.
So the Wizards have the first overall pick on their team, and guess who drafted him? Well, let's see. 1 year before that, the retired Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan joins the Washington Wizards front office. He was part owner and president of basketball operations. He had full control over roster moves and decisions. So 2001, the Wizards get the first pick and draft Kwame Brown. And the thing is, Jordan didn't even want Kwame. He wanted to flip him for Elton Brand, but the rest of the Wizards management didn't let him. So Kwame was stuck on a team with Michael Jordan, who didn't even want him. And then Jordan comes out of retirement and actually plays. Michael Jordan pulls a Michael Jordan, annual retirement and unretirement. But now Kwame, he has to practice against him every day. And the urban legend, Michael Jordan, there's people he wasn't easy on. He socked Steve Kerr in the dome one time. But Kwame, it said that's one guy he really wasn't easy on. Gilbert Arenas talked about Michael Jordan mocking Kwame in a club. You know how much hate you gotta have to mock your teammate off the court just for the love of being a hater? And Kwame said himself, Jordan would bring in older, way more physical guys just to rough him up in practice. He literally described it as designed to beat the crap out of me. Just read this. What he didn't expect to drop on him though was a 300-pound Advil named Jahidi White. The Wizards center pummeled the rookie in December practice so much that Brown's neck hurt, his back creaked, and his legs refused to lift him. As he lay groggy on the court awaiting sympathy, Collins stomped toward him with a snarl and order, "Get up right now." The coach was joined by teammates, including White, who planned to hit in what seemed like fraternity hazing. Brown glanced over and saw Jordan, his idol, frowning. The kid left the locker room in tears. I'm sitting there thinking maybe I wasn't cut out for this, Brown says. Maybe I wasn't tough enough. Why do I feel bad for Kwame? And publicly, Jordan would go on record questioning this team's toughness, their work ethic, and Kwame just kept catching strays. 4.5 points per game his rookie year, gets labeled a bust immediately. ESPN literally called him the whipping boy of Michael Jordan. But even deeper in the urban legend, it might get a little out of hand, because the internet version of the story, the most famous thing people say, Jordan made Kwame cry in practice. But Kwame Brown himself said that didn't happen, but there was definitely some stuff between Kwame and MJ. The story is real. You put an 18-year-old kid, put him on a win-now team with zero patience, under the most demanding player ever, who didn't even want him there in the first place, and then acted surprised when he didn't turn into Shaq. So yeah, shout out MJ, shout out Kwame, two totally different players, but two legends in their own right. But what about this one? The 2003 NBA draft lottery rig theory. Okay, so we talked about MJ, now we gotta talk about LeBron. And for this one, we gotta go way back, 2003, the draft lottery to be specific. So of course, a lot of people think NBA draft lotteries are always rigged, and for good reason, they probably are. Surely the Mavs got Cooper Flagg with a 0.00001% chance. But one of the most famous draft lottery rig theories, LeBron James. Before we even get into it, let's just look at the facts. Cleveland had a 22.5% chance to get the number one pick. That's the highest odds you could have. So them winning, it wasn't some miracle. Statistically, it was the most likely outcome. And you know they ain't sending his ass to Canada. But here's why people can't let this one go. LeBron James is from Akron, Ohio. The Cavs, they just went 17-65. And the greatest prospect, maybe ever, just happens to land in his literal hometown. And it's not just the fans. LeBron himself has said publicly, the lottery might have been rigged. He said that on the Pat McAfee show. Now, obviously, there's no evidence. The worst team won the draft lottery. Who cares? But the theory, it's only picked up more over time. You know, when D Rose went to his hometown, when the Pelicans ended up getting the pick to draft Anthony Davis, when the Cavs won 9 draft lotteries in a 3-year span. There's just so many draft lotteries that feel off. And LeBron going to his hometown to revive his own franchise, gotta be on the list at the very least. But if you want to play for your hometown team, please sub. I'll just make a real quick call to Mr. Silva, let him know. Thanks. But the next urban legend, it's not a theory, it's just an old NBA story, the punch. I mean, do you understand how hard you gotta punch someone for your punch to be known as the punch? So for this one, we gotta go back to December 9th, 1977, Lakers vs. Rockets, the Forum in Los Angeles. And before we get into it, you gotta understand the NBA in the 70s, it's not the NBA you watch today. Fights happened, like not hockey fights, but not the professional shove matches in the NBA today. The bench clearing brawls was just another game. So when a scuffle broke out between two randoms, Drew Desportes versus Peter Hernandez, no one gave a shit. But December 9th, 1977, Kermit Washington and Kevin Cunnert, nobody panicked, just another fight. Happens every week. But then Rudy Tomjanovich, he sees the fight and starts running over. Not to fight, but to break it up. He's the peacemaker here. And Kermit Washington, he sees someone sprinting at him, full speed, so he thinks the guy's coming over to fight him. So he turns and just throws everything he has. One punch lands straight onto Rudy Tomjanovich. And the sound was so loud, reporters in the press box heard it. People described it as a melon hitting concrete. And I genuinely still feel bad for Rudy T. The whole arena went silent. Tomjanovich hit the floor, unconscious, covered in blood. And when he woke up, he said he thought a scoreboard fell on him. That's how hard this guy got hit. And here's what the one punch to his face actually did. His face was nearly separated from his skull. He had a broken jaw, a broken nose, a skull fracture, a severe concussion, and spinal fluid leaking into his skull cavity. The doctor said injuries that severe, most people don't survive. He missed 5 months, almost never played again. Eventually he came back, he made the All-Star team again, and later he won 2 championships as the head coach of the Rockets. But Kermit Washington, he got 60 games suspended and a $10,000 fine, the longest suspension in NBA history at the time. And his reputation, it never recovered. Honestly, I feel, in my opinion, the most unfortunate situation in NBA history. I mean, look at this. From Bleacher Report, the 5 fights that changed the NBA. The picture is literally Malice at the Palace. Number 2, Malice at the Palace. Number 1, the punch. With one punch, the sports world has changed forever. So yeah, quite probably the most unfortunate moment in NBA history. But then there's this. Hornets double down on the worst draft trades ever. So the Hornets, they might be one of the worst franchises in NBA history, although they're hooping this year. But there's one thing they're literally amazing at, trading all-stars when they draft them. We gotta start in 1996. The Charlotte Hornets have the 13th pick, and they select Kobe Bryant, 17 years old, straight out of high school. And then immediately they trade him to the Lakers for Vlade Divac. Very not a good trade in hindsight. Now here's the part most people don't know. The Lakers, they told the Hornets who to pick before the draft even happened. The whole thing was prearranged. Charlotte never planned to keep Kobe, not for a second. And the Lakers needed cap space to sign Shaq, so they used the Hornets pick to get their guy. And Charlotte got Vlade Divac. So basically, the Lakers got Shaq and Kobe out of this trade. I get it, the Hornets were never keeping Kobe, but you know, they drafted him. If they really wanted to, they could have just not did the trade. People make it like they had a gun to their head and they had to trade Kobe. So yeah, that's trade 1. So it doesn't really get worse than trading a future MVP when you draft them, unless you trade a future 2-time MVP when you draft them. Because why would the Hornets not do that too? 8 years ago, 2018, the Hornets are back in the draft, and they select Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the 11th pick. And then they trade him to the Clippers for the 12th pick, Miles Bridges. Now this one is a little different because this wasn't prearranged. Charlotte looked at SGA, looked at Bridges, and said, yeah, we want Bridges. And Bridges is solid, at rapping at least. But nah, Bridges is a hooper. The SGA is one of the best players ever at this point. Gonna be a 2-time MVP in a couple years, a finals MVP. Basically the best player in the NBA the last 2 years. So yeah, the Charlotte Hornets drafted Kobe Bryant and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander 22 years apart from each other and got exactly 0 years of basketball from the two guys combined. They got Vlade Divac and Miles Bridges instead. Tell me, which two do you want? Miles Bridges and Vlade Divac, or SGA and Kobe? Give me Miles and Vlade in 6. But that reminds me, this video is presented by PrizePicks, America's #1 sports pick app. And I've actually got a lineup that I'm rolling with right now. I took the Detroit Pistons to win the NBA Finals. I put $10 on it for a chance to win $166. That's a 16.66 times payout. And honestly, this isn't random, because I feel like if Cade comes back healthy, they have a real path. He runs the offense, and when he's on the floor, the Pistons' efficiency is insane. That completely changes how competitive they are in the East, and honestly, I think they could dominate the East. And that's why I like this spot on PrizePicks. It's simple. You just pick more or less on player stats and even team outcomes, lock in your lineup, and you're set. I'll be posting more of my lineups on there too, so if you want to tell what I'm doing, make sure to follow me on the app so you don't miss anything. And if you've never tried it before, new users can pay $5 and get $50 in lineups instantly when you use code HMA. So download PrizePicks using the link in the description, use code HMA, and let's see if this Pistons pick hits. And as always, play responsibly. Okay, back to the video. What about this one? Larry Bird's left-handed game. This one is elite. February 14th, 1986, Boston Celtics versus the Portland Trail Blazers. And before the game, Larry Bird tells his teammates and the media that he's going to play left-handed. His reasoning, quote, I'm saving my right hand for the Lakers. Which is low-key kind of sus. But let's let that slide real quick, because if I'm on the Blazers, I'm pissed. Imagine a current superstar like Simone Fontecchio saying he's only using his left hand against the Jazz to save it for the game against the Thunder. You gotta take that personal if you're a Jazz fan. But anyway, the Celtics at this point, one of the best teams in NBA history. Bird is in the middle of his peak, 3 straight MVPs. So what does he do? Decides to play a whole game with his left hand. And he drops 47 points, 14 rebounds, 11 assists, a triple-double, one of the best games of his career, and they win in overtime, 120 to 119. And he hit the game-winning shot to force overtime, and the game winner in OT, left-handed. But here's where people always get this wrong. He didn't play with his left hand the entire game. He did use his left hand for most of the inside shots. 10 of his 21 makes were left-handed. He still used his right hand for jumpers and perimeter stuff. So the full myth version, it's slightly exaggerated. But the thing is, the real version is somehow even crazier. Because the guy wasn't even left-handed. And he still went for 47 on 21 of 34 shooting in overtime in a game that actually mattered. But then 2 days later against the Lakers with his right hand, he goes for 22, 18, and 7. So the saving my right hand for the Lakers line was not cap. He actually backed it up. So yeah, Larry Bird, mostly left-handed game, valid. But what about this? Nick Anderson's missed free throws changed his career. So Nick Anderson, dog for the Orlando Magic, and in the 95 season, Shaq, Penny, Nick Anderson, they actually end up making the finals versus Hakeem and the Houston Rockets, the reigning NBA champs. And game 1, the Magic are actually favored. I mean, it's the 6th seed Rockets. Nobody picked them to win the series. And with 10 seconds left, Magic up 3. Nick Anderson gets fouled. You go to the line and make one, the game's over. Except he misses. Okay, happens. Except he misses again. He gets his own rebound, gets fouled again, goes back to the line, misses, misses again. 4 free throws, 0 makes. Kenny Smith comes down, hits a 3, ties the game. Rockets win in overtime, and then sweep the Magic. 4-0. And Nick Anderson before this moment was a 70% free throw shooter. Not elite, but totally fine. Normal. And then a whole season later, his free throw percentage drops to 40. There was even times they had to take him off the court in close games because they simply couldn't trust him at the line. And he admitted it himself. He said he fought off demons in his head for a very long time about this. Now here's the thing, he did bounce back. Midway through the 97-98 season, something clicked, and he went from averaging 6 points to 22 points per game in the second half of that year. He shot 67% from the line, close to where he was before. So he did find it again, but it was never the same trajectory. He eventually got traded to Sacramento, then Memphis. His career faded out, but Nick Anderson definitely did have one moment where his career changed forever. But the last one we'll talk about, Andrew Bynum's bowling injury. So let's just take a look at this to start. Andrew Bynum in his career, his second to last season, a career high 18.7 points per game, 11.8 rebounds, an all-star, elite numbers for the Lakers. Then a gap year, then 2 years later, 24 games played for the Cavs. In the same year, the 13-14 season, 2 games played for the Pacers, and that's his career. And you might ask yourself, how the hell does that happen? Well, I'll explain. So like we said, Bynum, coming off one of the best seasons of his career, he actually gets shipped to the Philadelphia 76ers in a blockbuster 4-team deal, the one where the Lakers got Dwight, and Philly gives up everything because Bynum is supposed to be their guy, their franchise center for the next decade. And then he never plays a single game for them. And the reason? Well, before the season even started, he had a bone bruise in his right knee, missed all the training camp, missed the preseason, flew to Germany for treatments, so he's already behind, already on the injury report. Then, November 2012, Bynum, he goes bowling during his rehab. Who do you think you are? I am. But Bynum, his left knee swells up, gets an MRI, there's new cartilage damage, and he literally described what happened. He said it was 3 steps and roll. Just bowling. Normal bowling. And his knee said, nah. And his knee said, who do you think you are? I am. He didn't do anything wrong technically, but the optics were not great. A franchise player already hurt makes it worse at a bowling alley. Now here is where people always get it wrong. They say bowling ruined his career. It didn't. His knees were already breaking down. The bowling just made it worse. And it pushed his return back even further. The real story is, his body was already falling apart at 24, and the bowling was just the moment that everyone saw it. He ended up signing with Cleveland. He barely played, then he was added to the league right after. So yeah, Andrew Bynum, insanely unfortunate how many injuries he dealt with. Could have definitely been one of the best centers of the decade if he was healthy. But if you guys enjoyed this, please sub. I'll be posting a lot here. Thank you for watching.